Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Technology Tuesday, hosted by Out of the Box Technology. We're so excited to bring you these free webinars every Tuesday covering tips and tricks from in and outside of QuickBooks, hot topics our industry is encountering, and always happy to welcome any of our partners and third-party apps that we like to feature. My name is Jennifer Darachuk, and I'm the marketing manager here at Out of the Box Technology. I'll be your moderator today as we go through the presentation. If you have any questions about the information that's being presented, or you have some tech questions that you want Chad to address today, you can go ahead and chat those over to me using the question panel on your GoToWebinar control panel there, and I will be sure to address those. A little bit about Out of the Box Technology before we get started. We are a full service team of QuickBooks experts that cover training, integration, hosting, and support surrounding all versions of QuickBooks. We have a whole bookkeeping team as well as a development team that does website design, custom app development, and data migrations. So today we are presenting our last Technology Tuesday of 2019. I can't believe how fast the year has gone by, but I am really excited to welcome Chad Lampton. He's our Director of IT and Hosting. He's been with Out of the Box Technology for years and years and years, and he just really knows the ins and outs of computers and anything and everything IT. So I'm really excited to have him on the line with us today, just to cover some of those questions that we get all the time surrounding people in our hosting environment and just little quirks that pop up. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Chad, and he's going to address, like I said, some of those common pain points that we see our customers facing. And then if you have something that you've been, I always do it this way, is there a better way, or just something that kind of always irks you, go ahead and chat that in, and we'll make sure that Chad addresses that. So with that, I am going to hand things over to Chad and let him get started.
Thank you, Jennifer. And good afternoon to those that are in the afternoon, and good morning to those that are still in the morning. So today I just wanted to kind of cover a little something about our hosting. So as the Director of IT, we have a staff of consultants and technicians that are monitoring what we have as our customer care email, which also has ticketing generated. Along with, we also have a live chat. And as you can kind of see on my desktop there, we kind of let our customers know inside our hosting where to go whenever an issue may happen or occur. So today I wanted to kind of just cover some of those most common questions or issues that we get a lot of that could be handled in-house, if you will, or that customer could do on their own without having to wait for a technician or somebody to get on a chat line or a phone call. Obviously, any major issues that occur, obviously we're here to help. We'll schedule that or get on it right away, depending on how bad that issue might be. So number one, right away, the most common thing I see personally whenever we get a ticket or an email in our hosting is, why isn't my screen in full screen mode in remote desktop? Which is a great question, because a lot of the time, some customers just want that smaller screen just so that they can toggle between their desktop, their local, and the remote. However, in our hosting, some actually do want to have the entire desktop to be viewable inside our hosting. So what that means is inside here, when you open remote, you can just go to, you can click on the shortcut, and I kind of jumped ahead here. And typically this is what you'll see right away. Server name, username, and then that's it. So a lot of people can't see that right away. So they don't see that there's that option. If you hit show options, there's a display tab here, and you can actually change the size of your monitor. So let's say I want it a little smaller so I can see both my local and the remote desktop. I'll change it down to what I think works for me. And then when I hit connect and go into the server, it will only show a small portion of the desktop. Even though I can see the entire hosted server, I'm getting that small portion. Some customers like this and they prefer it this way so they can go back and forth. So they have their local on one side and then remote on the other, which is fine for some, but some want that entire screen absorbed. So what I'll typically do is I can either send them instructions on how to do so, or with this Tech Tuesdays, you can kind of see how to do that. So before you even connect, you just right click on your shortcut and hit edit. And most of the times our technicians, when they're setting up a new hosted client, will create this shortcut for you. Either it'll get sent to you via email, or that technician will actually log into your computer and set this up. So this will already be available to our customers. When they right click and edit, like I said, most times this is the remote desktop connection screen they'll see. They can hit show options, click on display, and then move this little bar all the way over to large. And then once you see that it says full screen mode, that's an indicator that it's ready to go. Now you're in full screen. So when you hit connect, voila, you have your full screen. And there it is. So now we're in full screen mode. So again, this is a question I get a lot of. Customers will either come to our live chat or they'll email our customer care, submit a ticket saying, hey, how do we get the full screen? And that is how you can change your screen inside Remote Desktop using the app. Once you've done that, now there's a secondary question that I see a lot of. So we get full screen mode a lot. Printing is another one. The third one I get a lot of is how to change the password. Inside our hosting, we set up all our user accounts before our onboarding. So customer will come to us, they want to use this for hosting. They go through the whole process, we sign them up, we create the users. Those users have a password by default. We'll set that up. In some cases, those users want to use a different password, which is fine. We typically try to set up these passwords to be very complicated, if you will, to keep them very secure and safe so that your data inside our hosting can be protected. However, some do want that option to change their password. Now, inside hosting, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either get the on-screen keyboard, which typically in our hosting, this is our internal out-of-the-box server, so you can see we have a lot of shortcuts sitting here already. Typically, our hosted clients will have a shortcut here for the virtual keyboard. So if I type that here for myself, I can actually get the on-screen keyboard. But like I said, that shortcut is usually just sitting right here inside the start menu. And then our customers can go ahead and click on that. And then from here, I can simply just do the Control, Alt, and Delete, and hit OK. And actually, I think it's Control, Alt, N now, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that's working anymore. If this doesn't work, which in this case, because I'm remote into a virtual machine, which is a Mac side, and then I have a Windows virtual machine running the meeting, there's actually another way within, if you don't want to use a virtual keyboard, and if it's not working for you like it is for me, you can actually hit Control Alt N on your keyboard for Windows users, and that will bring up the remote desktop's change my password screen. So that will appear on your screen and thus allowing you to change your password. For me, being on a Mac and then into a Windows machine, my keyboards don't translate as they normally should. So for me, if I wanted to change my password, I would have to go from my Mac side, remote in, and then use the triple key function of Control Alt Delete or Control Alt End. And so inside there, when it asks you for the password change, a screen will appear, and then it will ask you to change your password. It'll ask for the current password, you type it in, and then whatever new password you want, within right here on the desktop, you can type in your new password. And then thus going forward, you can have that new password. The only criteria for the passwords in our environment is that you need to make sure that the password is at least 10 characters long, it has a capital letter, or at least some number. This ensures that the password, can't be easily figured out. We usually recommend don't use your birthday, your name, or your company name. Obviously, make it something a little different than what you would normally use, so that you keep all that information safe. The other item today I wanted to cover that I get a lot of, outside again, printing, password, and how to change your screen size, is can I move a document from my local to the remote desktop server? So as you can see here, there's this little blue bar that sits up above on my remote desktop. And typically, what that blue bar is doing there is allowing you to minimize your remote desktop to get back to your local. At the beginning of the Tech Tuesday, I was talking about how you can actually have your remote desktop in like a smaller screen. It's not in full screen mode. So for some of our customers that are in full screen mode, they don't really see this option too often because their entire desktop's absorbed by the remote desktop. So I always recommend that if you are in full screen mode, to keep this blue bar up here so that you can either minimize, or you can actually just change the screen size out real quick, adjust it as you want by changing the screen to maximize, minimize here, or just minimizing it all the way down to the taskbar. Earlier today, I created a text document, just called it test. And this is kind of just showing you an example of how we can copy from our local to the remote. If you have a Word document, Excel document, anything like that, as long as it's not crazy large, it's not like a 60 gig file. If you've got anything that's gigs and gigs in size, usually you want to contact our support team, and we'll assist in using like a share file application or something like that to move your data over. Small documents aren't a problem. Well, let's say you delete something off your desktop, or you delete something off in your QuickBooks folder. You can actually right-click on your drive, go to Properties, click on the Previous Version tab, and then check any of the last backups that we had. You can choose the 6 a.m. and open. Inside here will be any of the folders and data that you had on that server during that 6 a.m. time. As you can see, it's got all of its timestamps there. You can see those. If you open up any of those folders, you can literally right-click and copy any document in there and paste it back on your desktop if you had to, thus getting back that document. So that is just one little piece of the backups we have. We also have other redundant backups. We have backups that are sent from our Milwaukee data center to our Tigard corporate office. So we have redundant backups all over the place. So really, any data that's in our hosting is well secure and covered. This is just our what's called volume shadow copy, allowing our customers to get in there and access any documents or data that they may have inadvertently deleted and get it back. I'll just close that out there. So that would be our fourth question. And then into my fifth, we get this one quite often as well. So with QuickBooks, being that we're a QuickBooks hosting consultant company, we host QuickBooks on our servers. More often than I like, QuickBooks will sometimes freeze up on the server if you're trying to print an invoice and you may have inadvertently chosen the wrong printer. The one I see a lot of is that OneDrive printer seems to always become default on our server, and we have to go in and make changes so that the OneDrive PDF converter doesn't become the default, thus not locking up QuickBooks whenever a customer's trying to print an item out of QuickBooks, an invoice or whatever. So if that seems to happen, and I'll just open up any version of QuickBooks here, it doesn't really matter. A lot of our customers don't realize this, but within here, you can actually close QuickBooks even though it's frozen. As long as the entire remote desktop isn't frozen, our customers should have the ability to come in and make any changes, or I'm sorry, should have the ability to come in and open taskbar to close out QuickBooks as long as there aren't any major changes happening inside QuickBooks. And if the desktop is still accessible, say for example, you can come down here and click on the Start menu and it reacts. You can open up your Windows Explorer and it reacts to you. That is an indicator that Windows isn't frozen, it's just QuickBooks. For our customers, I tell them that they can right-click on the taskbar and then click on Task Manager. Inside Task Manager, usually Task Manager looks like this. It's not going to have all that more detail screen. Customers that come in do have the option to hit more details if they want to see more of what's going on, what other background processes are happening on our server.
But typically when you open your task managers, this is what you'll see. You can highlight QuickBooks and hit in task. This will close out QuickBooks even when it's frozen. Thus, you don't have to, contact the IT person that works for the consulting company, in this case, Out of the Box, or myself, or my other staff members. They don't have to try to come in and try to figure out how to unlock QuickBooks. The customer has the power to do that themselves, and that's the quickest way to just close out QuickBooks. Once it's closed out, you can simply click on the Start menu or wherever your QuickBooks shortcut is and just launch it again. Log back in and off you go. Again, the nature of QuickBooks, sometimes that happens. It does freeze up from time to time, and it's never fun that you can't use QuickBooks and you have to wait on a technician to come in and basically either unlock QuickBooks for you or close it for you, so that you can get back to work quickly, just by going to the task manager, highlighting QuickBooks, and hitting in task will save you a lot of time and a lot of headache whenever you need to get back into QuickBooks quickly. Now, the question always comes up is, they'll ask me, hey, Chad, why was QuickBooks locked up? 99% of the time, I usually find that it's the printer. If ever you're trying to print and the wrong printer was checked or chosen, 99% of the time in our hosted environment, that'll happen. We have ways to fix that quickly. There's a program called TS Print that we can install that will help choose your default printer for you going forward, so nothing like that ever happens again. Other times it's just as simply as checking which printer you need to see before printing that will allow you to get the print job out right away. And so that in itself is a huge time saver. And moving on to our next item, last but not, well, it's not quite the last one, so we'll leave that one. But the next item, I will say, before we get to our last item, is if you get a new computer. So we get this quite often in our hosting. Customers will email and say, hey, I just replaced my computer. I have my old one here, but I need to get remote desktop onto my other computer. How can I do that? Well, if Out of the Box set up a shortcut for you, you can email yourself this remote desktop shortcut. You can either email it yourself or Out of the Box, our team can create one and email it to you, to that new computer. Huge time saver. A lot of our customers will try to schedule this. They will, they'll say, hey, I'm available this afternoon. When's your best availability? If we are swamped or booked out, obviously our customers that got these new computers don't want to have to wait 3 or 4 hours later in the day to get it. They want that done right away. So if you're already set up with the shortcut, and this is outside of the normal onboarding, this is saying that you're an existing customer, you've been using it, you need to have the shortcut moved, you can just email it. Now, I've already done that myself. I emailed myself this Out of the Box Technology RDP connection setting. And then I can simply just either right click on it or click the down arrow, hit save as, and then I can save it to, anywhere. I can save it to my desktop, which I already did, and hit save. Thus, when I've been emailed it to myself, there it is. And if you're not familiar with trying to email that, it's no different than creating a new email and just attaching that onto your. So you just go to attach file, browse to it on your desktop here, go to desktop, click on it, hit insert. That will then insert it into your email. You can just type in your email address, hit the send button, and I'll just do that again real quick just to kind of give that as an example. Just test it out here, and I hit send, just so you can see that it does send, and then I should see that inside my email shortly. It should come into my inbox. Once it's there, I can then, again, I can click on this, hit save as, save it to my desktop, and there it is. Thus, once it's on, you can just double click. All the settings I had from my previous computer are still there. Once I hit the connect button, I'm in. So again, that's if you got a new computer, you've been using our hosting, you need to be able to get back on our hosting right away. Any of our onboarding clients, we always set up that shortcut for our customers. It'll always be on your desktop. So on your local computer, you can always email that shortcut back to yourself, save it on your desktop, double click on it, and then you're back into your hosting server, no problem. And then the last item I wanted to cover today is probably the one we see second to the most. So I know we talked about full screen, passwords. Printing is another one. Again, that's just choosing the right printer. Like I said, inside our hosting within QuickBooks, that OneDrive PDF converter always seems to, or I'm sorry, the OneNote PDF converter always seems to be in the way. However, in our hosting, the second most popular issue I see is logging off. So a customer will say, I logged off to go to lunch, and I went to lunch, and when I came back, QuickBooks was still open on my session, but now it's locked up. And what that means is like there's a misconception with remote desktop. If we see up here, let's say, for example, I've been working, I have QuickBooks still open, I decide I want to go to lunch. A lot of customers think by just simply clicking on this X up at the top right-hand corner is logging off the server, but it's not. Basically, that's just a disconnect. The server session is still running. All you've done is just closed remote desktop, but your session in itself is still logged in and it's still running. And I can see that as an administrator when I log into the server. I can see that that server session is still very much active. It just says right next to it in the taskbar that it is disconnected, thus meaning that it is not a logged off session. So when that customer tells me when they came back in from lunch, they logged in, they still see QuickBooks open, but now it's locked up. The reason QuickBooks is locked up is because QuickBooks doesn't react well inside well, you can see it already. It says the system theme settings have changed. Usually if this warning comes up, sometimes you're fine. Sometimes you can just click through it, get right back to work, all is well. Other times this system theme setting change that happened because of the disconnect will lock up QuickBooks. Thus when the customer gets back from lunch, they see that QuickBooks is all locked up, they can't use it. So the point of that is, we always recommend that if you're going to step away from your server session or you're done for the day using QuickBooks, always log off the server. What's great about Out of the Box is inside our servers, we've actually put a button either on the taskbar or on the start menu. It'll sit right here on the top. It has that log off option. So when you're done for the day, you've been using the server, you're all done, you can click the start menu and then click log off. This will properly sign you off the server so that when either A, you're done with lunch for the day and you come back to log back in, or you're done for the night and you're coming back in for the morning, all your items won't be stuck or locked up on our server. Now, most times in our hosting environment, we have a script that runs that will close all that stuff automatically at like 3 a.m. or our servers reboot at 3 a.m. But this is mostly in the cases of if the customer went for a 1-hour lunch, came back, things are all locked up on the server, what do they need to do? To prevent it, this is more preventative, if you will. Logging off will prevent a lot of those issues so that when you log back in after lunch, you can launch all your applications and get right back to work. So essentially today, everything that I'm covering is a lot of those, I don't mean to make this sound like it's small, but for me, from an IT standpoint, some of those smaller issues that we see that the customer can empower themselves to take care of, so they're not waiting on a technician to get back to them an hour later for simply QuickBooks being locked up, or they need a password reset, or they need a document inside our hosting, so they're not waiting on us to do a file transfer for it. They can simply copy and paste it into our hosting environment. So I hope some of these tips and tricks are useful today, that some of the things that I've shown that we do inside our hosting. I want to kind of leave the next, 10 or so minutes as open on questions, and I can try to answer some of those. Outside of not being able to really show you how to set up, how to change your password, me just basically saying you have to trust me, it works. Using a virtual machine inside of a Mac, my keyboards don't always translate, like I said, so I wasn't able to really show you that the password changes is available. However, if you're unable to do any of those things, you can always email us to customer care, and we'll be happy to reset your password for you. If you're locked out again, you have to wait on a tech to go in and reset those passwords. But again, if none of those options work, again, we are always available. Our support starts at 6 a.m. Central Time, and it goes all the way till 6 p.m. Central. So we have 12 hours of support during the day. Between those hours, just reach out to us, and we're available to help. Again, all those other items are just empowering the customer to do it themselves. If we have any questions, Jennifer, I'm available to answer any of those.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. Those were all really great points. I know, especially for me, the copying the document from your local machine to the remote desktop, because I used to just email myself and then open my email on the remote and open it. So just the ability to do that, I know, is huge. So thank you for showing us that, as well as the other items. I know they come in quite a bit. So like Chad said, we're going to open it now for questions. If you have anything about what Chad went over, or if there's anything that you were hoping Chad could kind of shed some light on, go ahead and chat those over to us, and we'll take the next 10 or 15 minutes or so to address those. I know the first one that we had that came in almost right away was, my computer runs really slow. Any tips on how to clean up my computer?
Yeah, there's actually some applications out there that are free to download, and it seems to be the most popular one, and that's CCleaner. You can actually run CCleaner on your local computer, and it will give you some statistics on like hard drive space, how much RAM or memory you're using, any processes that might be running a little high. And what CCleaner will actually do is it'll go through and tell you things that you can clean off your computer that are safe, or things you don't need anymore, to help boost up the speed. Outside of just, taking it to, an IT person to take a look at the hardware to see if you're available to upgrade your RAM, most times it's as simple as just doing a simple cleanup inside the computer. Uninstalling applications that you don't use anymore. The big one is obviously QuickBooks. A lot of our customers will install many, many years of QuickBooks if they need them. But if there happens to be an application, or even QuickBooks Year Edition, that you're no longer using, uninstall those applications, get them out of the way. Sometimes those applications are running in the background and you can't see it. And if they're not being used anymore, rather than having those applications taking up, hard drive space and utilization of the hardware on your computer, uninstall those. And then also, obviously, clean up any apps or data on the computer that you might not be using anymore. Again, that's just the little things there you can do. Obviously, if there's more going on with the computer, say a virus, then obviously you need a virus scan done, or it could always be as big as running the Windows 10 repair utility, which sometimes you can run and keep all your data on your computer without even messing with that stuff. And Windows will go through it and repair itself and make it run a little faster. So I always start out small. I always tell everybody, use CCleaner first, or if you're a customer of ours, I'll go in and use that. I've gotten pretty good these days that I don't even really need to use CCleaner. I can just open Task Manager, looking at your applications, see what needs to be shut off. With that being said, you can actually right-click and go back to the taskbar, and you can see some of the processes that are being ran on the computer. It'll tell you your utilization, how many processes are running, and you can also go into Startup, and you can kind of go in here and disable some of these items at Startup to help speed up the computer even as well. As you can see, for me, I've disabled a lot of things that run at startup. Some things I just don't even need this Windows computer running. So you can go into your taskbar and open Task Manager and look at all your memory, see what's being used, heavily utilized. And if those apps, in this case, GoToMeeting is really taking up a lot of my CPU. If I know it's like Chrome or Microsoft OneDrive or even Microsoft Teams, I can disable those and only use those applications as needed, instead of having those always launch at startup, which will help me in the long run, because then those services aren't running the entire day. That was probably way more explained than needed, but those are some things you can do to try to help speed up your computer.
Thanks, Chad. No, that was perfect. The next question is, do you have a recommended security software for antivirus, firewalls, malware, etc.?
Yes, we're big fans here at Out of the Box. We use ESET, and ESET is a application that is paid. It's not free, that you can get for a 1, 2, or 3 year license. And ESET, sorry, I'm getting a call in. Let me go ahead and send that to voicemail. And ESET actually was, at least it was, it may still be, was rated one of the #1 top antivirus malware security applications in the US. I'm not sure that still is the case. I haven't researched it in some time, but we've still had a lot of good experiences with ESET for our customers. We also are starting to utilize LogMeIn. LogMeIn is a software that we use as a support tool to remote into our customers' computers. However, if you want to use this for IT, because we're also a managed services for IT, you can come to us and pay us, to do your monthly IT for updates, checking on computers, and just like what the question was asked, how to make your computers faster, we'll go in and do those things for you, run your updates and such. We're now starting to use LogMeIn as an antivirus. So LogMeIn is now starting to sell their own antivirus. And what's cool about LogMeIn from a managed services standpoint, I can remotely check on what the computer's doing with viruses. If you have one, I'll know about it. It'll send me an alert without the customer even needing to contact me first. So I get an email alert saying, hey, this customer came in contact with a Trojan virus. Take the next steps to clean it up. So then I'll either log into the dashboard and log me in, clean up the computer remotely without ever having to go on the computer, or I'll have to get on the computer and say use an application like Malwarebytes and do a cleanup. For our ESET customers, they usually get a notification on their screen. A big message will come up and say, hey, you've been attacked with a virus. What steps do you want to do? Do you want to clean this up? Do you want to contact your administrator? You can do either one of those two actions. You can either call us or just hit the cleanup button and ESET will clean up the virus. So really, anybody that's not on our managed services, we highly recommend ESET. If you come to us out of the box and use this for managed services, or you come to our hosting, we use LogMeIn internally for antivirus.
Great, thanks, Chad. I know back in the day, like I remember in high school, that was always Norton antivirus. That's all anyone ever talked about. So it's good to know just some recommendations on some other services that are well vetted.
Yeah, McAfee and Norton back in the day.
Yep, exactly. Cool. So our next question is, how often should I follow the prompts to make updates? So I'm guessing like, when those pop-ups come up all the time, I know they do on my screen as well. Like, how often should you go ahead and do those?
So that's an amazing question. So great question. Obviously in our hosting, we get that a lot. In QuickBooks, since I want to say QuickBooks 18 or 19 came out a couple of years ago, there's just been this prompt that shows up in our hosting all the time. It'll say, hey, there's some critical updates to install. Make sure to run your monthly updates in QuickBooks. The only options you get is either to hit OK or cancel. That is just a random generated notification just letting you know to use your update services inside QuickBooks. It's not an actual update, even though it appears to look that way. So that one we just tell our customers to ignore. That's just QuickBooks letting you know to run your update services inside QB. However, in our hosting environment, you have to be an administrator to run QuickBooks. And so we normally schedule those out every Thursday, first Thursday of every month. So we wait for the second Tuesday to come and go, because that's when Microsoft releases all their updates, all their cumulative and security updates. And then we designate Thursday for our hosting crew to go through and then update every server with QuickBooks. Now the question is how often should you do that? We typically want to wait. We try not to wait longer than a week. We want to see what these updates are doing, how it's affecting the server, how it's affecting QuickBooks. Especially like last month when we ran the patch updates for QuickBooks 19, all of a sudden people were getting notification errors that they couldn't access their C drive anymore. And the reason that was because Intuit had pushed a patch out that was throwing a big advertisement about QuickBooks 20. And so because our C drive is secure in our hosting environment, it made it seem like our customers no longer had access to the C drive, even though they do. It was simply just Intuit throwing an advertisement in one of their patches. So little things like that we're trying to look out for. So we usually give it about a week, and that's what we tell our customers. You want to wait to kind of research those updates, find out what other people are experiencing with those, if they're having issues. QuickBooks beta testing, Microsoft's beta testing, it's not always the greatest. So sometimes you're not always getting those real-time, up-to-date notifications on what these updates are causing or problems they're doing inside any hosting environment or your QuickBooks applications. So if you wait about a week just to make sure that there hasn't been, nobody else is experiencing any issues, then I would say go ahead and then run those updates a week later. Especially if there are issues, then you don't want to run them at all. Unfortunately, in Microsoft world, they force you to run those updates anyway. So in Windows, unfortunately, you don't have a choice. You have to update. You have to deal with the issues that come with it. So outside of QuickBooks, in the Microsoft world, you don't have much of a choice. You kind of have to update. But in QuickBooks, I'd wait about a week.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chad. So that's actually all the questions that are coming in from the audience. I'll give it another minute or two if anyone has a burning question or pain point that you want to run by Chad and see if he has some advice on. But Chad, did you have anything else you kind of wanted to mention before we wrap up this afternoon?
We're kind of hitting year end now. So, for any customers that might be on the line today interested in getting their QuickBooks hosted, this is the time of year to do it. With Christmas and New Year's coming up, Insider hosting, as far as onboarding, this is prime time, because we have the available schedule right now, because a lot of our other projects aren't going to happen until after the first of the year. A lot of our customers aren't asking for those. So as far as hosting, our schedules are pretty free right now to do a lot of onboarding. So if anybody is in the line or interested in hosting, we can have our sales staff send information out and try to get some conversation scheduled, get a look over, or any interest in that whatsoever. Like I said, right now is the time. We have our staff is available between the next few weeks to start doing some onboarding. So if you want to get some hosting done, come chat with us.
Excellent. And there was a Technology Tuesday that we did a couple of weeks ago on hosting. So I can provide everyone with a link to that as well if you just wanted kind of a high level view at what our hosting is, what that's all about. And yeah, Chad is absolutely right. If now is the time. So if you're ready and you want to move forward with that, let us know and we can definitely take care of you.
Yeah, and just a little thing with hosting too, just to kind of give a quick overview. Hosting is for those customers that don't have it in the budget for a new server, never had the need for a server, but want to have all the security and features and backups and updates and tech support that come along with owning their own server, can actually just rent a space with us. It's no different than saying like renting an apartment space. QuickBooks is your furniture. The server is the apartment space. You own the application. We own the server, so we're also the building maintenance with that. So you can call on us. We'll fix any issues. If it's a leaky faucet, in this sense, Windows isn't working properly, we'll get in there and fix it. That's essentially, in a nutshell, what hosting is for those that might be interested in doing it.
Yeah, love that analogy, Chad. Very awesome. We did have one more question that snuck in right before we close out today, and that is, and it might be the situation for a couple people on the line today, I have not updated to the new QuickBooks version. Since I haven't updated anything this year, will this be a problem?
It all depends on the version. So if you're running payroll or anything like that, and say you're in anything that requires an additional subscription inside QuickBooks, payroll is the big one. So if you're using Intuit Payroll and you're on QuickBooks 16, I think it's either May 31st. I want to say it's May. The last day of May being the 31st, I would say is the right date. That's when Intuit sunsets those versions. It's usually 3 years back. So if it's so this year, it'll be 2017. So as of May 31st for 2017, it'll no longer be a supported application for QuickBooks, for Intuit. So you can't call Intuit, they won't support it. If you call them and you're on 2017 after May 31st, come June 1, they're going to tell you to upgrade. So it really all depends on what version. So if you're on 2017, you're still good until May 31st. If you're on 2016 and you're using payroll or any of those additional subscriptions with Intuit, then you would need to upgrade. If you're not using those things, you're just on QuickBooks Pro or Premier 2016, but you're not utilizing all the additional features, you're fine. You may call Intuit for support, and they may still ask you to upgrade, but that's what we're here for too, as Pro Advisors. You can always come to us and we'll help support that version. 9 times out of 10, if we run into any brick walls, we'll probably even suggest the same. If you're on 2016, we'll ask you to upgrade in 2020.
Absolutely, yeah. We're definitely here, like Chad said, our support's here for 12 hours a day. We've got our team of QuickBooks experts that's available to answer the phone. So if you did have those types of questions as well, you can just call right into us. And kind of along the same lines, Chad, I believe it's in January that Microsoft no longer will support Windows 7. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've been telling our customers since 2017 they no longer support Windows 7, but Intuit has finally put on their website that after January 1st, 2020, that they're no longer supporting Windows 7.
Right. So that's
I mean,
something
honestly, it hasn't been supported for some time. I'm kind of surprised it took Intuit so long. It's just anytime I've dealt with Windows 7 and QuickBooks for the last 3 years, it's been a nightmare. A lot of our customers have had to upgrade. So if you're still on Windows 7 and you do need to upgrade your QuickBooks, I would highly recommend upgrading to Windows 10 if your computer's compatible. Unfortunately, the worst issue here is that you may have to buy a new workstation, all for that application of QuickBooks. So some things to keep in the back of your mind if you're still a Windows 7 user.
Sure, absolutely. All right, Chad. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was really great. I think that you really covered a lot of key pain points that a lot of our customers and maybe potential customers on the line today are experiencing, and just hit on some things that maybe not everyone knew about, especially about the managed services that we do offer here at Out of the Box Technology, just monthly IT services. Even if you're not hosting with us, right, that's still something that our customer care team can provide, right? It doesn't have to be in a hosting environment that we can do the IT services for different businesses.
That's correct. Even if they have their own server, but they just don't have an IT person managing the stuff, and they're concerned that things aren't being handled right internally with their technologies. We have been a managed service provider for 15 plus years now with Out of the Box. So we're certainly here and available to do so if you need to continue to use your QuickBooks on a local basis.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chad, and for everyone on the line who submitted some questions to keep this conversation going. We appreciate it. If you have any other questions or things that come up and you're like, oh man, I wish I could have asked Chad, you can either email myself or email our customer care inbox, and we can see how we can help you figure that out. That's what we're here for. So with that, I just wanted to have a couple of things to show you before we close out today. We do have our Technology Tuesday schedule online for 2020. As I said, this is the last one for 2019. So go ahead and check out what we have coming up next year. There's a lot of really exciting and in-depth presentations coming up. So again, those are totally free. We encourage you to check those out, register. Technology Tuesdays are always recorded and posted online, so you can watch them on demand if you aren't able to make one, or as I said, and referenced a couple of hosting Tech Tuesdays that we've done this year, a couple other services that we provide. You can watch those anytime, just to see a little bit more about what we do here at Out of the Box Technology. And here's my contact information. If you have any questions, like I said, other little irks going on with your computer, you can send those my way. Or if you have a suggestion for a topic or an app, or just something that you want our experts to really cover for our Technology Tuesdays in 2020, send that over to me as well, and we'll get that on the agenda. So Chad, again, thank you so much for your time today. Everyone who joined, we look forward to seeing you all again soon, and have a great rest of your year.
Thank you.